Hey everyone, my name's Ben and welcome to the Expat Blueprint, the channel dedicated to educating expats to financial freedom. Welcome to episode number 2 of our How to Invest series. I'm really looking forward to getting going with this as so many people over the last week have got in touch saying they're really excited to get learning. And that is music to my ears because that's really what this channel is about, awareness. No more burying your head in the sand when it comes to personal finance. Let's turn you into organised and confident individuals chasing down your financial dreams. So today is an absolute fundamental lesson when it comes to investing. We're going to talk about the risk-reward trade-off. It's the yin and the yang when it comes to investing. They're so correlated. Because as soon as I mention the word risk with some of the expats that I meet or I work with, they sit up in their chair and they think, I'm going to lose all my money. However, officially, while risk does refer to the degree of uncertainty or potential financial loss of an investment decision, it is important to realise that risk in relation to investing actually works on a very wide spectrum. There are so many different types of investments out there and some are much riskier and have a lot more uncertainty than others. But what is crucial to understand is that taking risk is essential if you're looking to make any sort of return on your money. How much return is going to depend on how much risk you're willing to take. Think of it logically. If we could all just leave our money in a bank account where there was no potential of loss and have it returning, say, 10% per year, why would we even bother looking at anything else? Realistically, by taking your money out of your bank account in the form of cash and then using it to buy any type of investment is taking risk. Now, like I said, there's a whole wide range of investments out there, which we're going to go through in future episodes. But you can probably work out for yourself that, say, lending money to a government like the UK or the US on a short-term basis in the form of a bond, which we would consider pretty close to risk-free, is going to be a hell of a lot safer than investing in a small technology startup company in, say, China. Now, unfortunately, because UK and US government bonds are considered such a safe asset class, then the returns on those bonds are realistically pretty low. But they do provide a lot of certainty, whereas a small Chinese technology company could have the potential to generate huge return, but the amount of volatility or uncertainty would be extremely high. Essentially, a key learning point here would be that the more risk that you're willing to bear, the more return potential you're likely to have. And we call this a risk premium. You're rewarded for taking on more risk by potentially higher returns, but you would also need to bear increased levels of uncertainty and potential failure. The key to understanding how comfortable we are with taking risk is made up in 2 parts: our risk tolerance and our risk capacity. Our risk tolerance is our natural emotional attitude towards investment and our ability to psychologically endure the potential of losing money on an investment. As humans, we're all very different, but we're all emotional beings. There is a human bias called loss aversion that explains that on a whole, the pain of loss for investors is greater than any joys of gains. For example, say you were presented with an investment opportunity where you had to commit $50,000. This investment had 2 potential outcomes. It has a 50% chance of doubling and making $100,000 and a 50% chance of losing everything and getting nothing back. Would you do it? Now, my guess is that most of us would probably say no to that investment, even though statistically we have as much chance of doubling our money as we do of losing our money. However, the thought of loss hurts so much more than the feelings of joy in doubling our money. The second part of our attitude towards risk is risk capacity. Unlike risk tolerance, where you decide how much risk do you want to take, risk capacity is how much risk you can afford to take. For example, it'd be a lot easier for a millionaire to go forward with our previous $50,000 investment example than for an individual where $50,000 is all they had. Typically, people with large amounts of wealth can afford to take more risk on certain investments than people with less wealth because their capacity for financial loss is higher. If that person who was a millionaire lost that $50,000, I'm sure they'd be annoyed. I mean, $50,000 is a lot of money. However, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Whereas the person where the $50,000 was everything that they had would be completely devastated. Now, to understand your personal attitude to risk, financial planners like myself would use an online risk profiling software. This gives us a ballpark estimate on where an individual typically lies on a scale, whether someone is super conservative, relatively balanced, or more adventurous. We would then have a conversation with the individual about the results to confirm that this is how they felt and whether the risk capacity actually matched the profile score. If you'd like to try this process yourself, I've left the link in the show notes for a free risk questionnaire via Oxford Risk, who are one of the industry leaders in calculating personal investment risk profiles. Okay, so by now you should understand more about risk, its relationship to investment return, and how you can go about finding out your risk profile. Now let's look at 3 reasons why understanding your risk profile is so important. Number 1, it heavily influences our investment decisions. There's absolutely no point in someone who's found out that they're super cautious on a risk scale heavily invest in investments that tend to be riskier. The reason being, at the first sign of any market volatility, the emotion will get too much and they'll just pull out of their investments. The key to setting up your portfolio is understanding how much risk you're willing to bear when looking for investment return. You then just align your portfolio so that it reflects your level of risk comfort. This will hopefully ensure you don't experience an investment journey that you weren't expecting, and it also means that you're likely to stay invested for the long term, which is key. Number 2, understanding your risk will help set expectations. If after the risk questionnaire you come out as a cautious investor and you agree that this is the level of risk you're going to take going forward, you're then setting expectations as to what types of investment return you could expect over the longer term. A cautious investor will not experience the 7.5 to say 10% return a more adventurous investor might expect, because they're unwilling to bear that level of risk. They might be looking at a return that is closer to say 1 to 3%. Understanding your risk profile will give you clarity and will ensure you're not left feeling disappointed. Number 3, being confident about your risk profile allows you to plan. As I mentioned in the previous point, you'll start to set more realistic expectations on typical types of investment returns for your level of risk. Therefore, when planning your financial goals, you can make the required adjustments. For example, let's say to hit your financial independence or retirement figure by the age of 60, the calculations say that you'll need to average, say, 6% a year. However, on the risk profile questionnaire, you come out as a cautious investor and are more likely to achieve an investment return of, say, 1 to 3%. Well, whilst this might not be ideal, at least you know. You can start planning your options. Do you decide to retire later, or phase your way into retirement by extending your working life, but maybe on a part-time basis? Or do you increase your contributions to your retirement fund now so that you can achieve your goal by 60? Understanding your risk profile and what you're comfortable with might not necessarily be what is required, but it is who you are and you can't change that. You just need to plan accordingly. This will give you the best chance of ensuring the safety of your money, keeping up with inflation, and not coming short on your objectives. The key takeaway from today is to not be afraid of risk as an investor. It's part of the process. Risk in investing is just something that needs to be managed, and by doing so correctly, you get rewarded for it. Take the time to go through the risk questionnaire and reflect on the results. Be honest with yourself. If you lie, the only person you're kidding is yourself. I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button below and share our content with as many expats as possible. We're on a mission to change how expats relate and manage their money to help us reach your colleagues and friends. I look forward to seeing you all next week, and remember to always dream big.